I just started A Court of Silver Flames and I've been thinking a lot about these characters. So naturally, I decided to give them a very official, very non-made up personality test and match them to Jungian inspired archetypes. I did some research and I found out that the word archetype comes from the Greek word archetypos, I think is how you say it. But anyway, it means original pattern. And that's basically how I'm using it here. As a recurring pattern of personality, motivation, desire, Carl Jung has this whole theory about archetypes emerging from what he calls the collective unconscious. But I'm not really getting into that here or into how much credence we should be giving that line of thought. I'm just using archetypes as a way to think about what drives a character and the role they play in the overall story. So for this video, I'm using Carol Pearson's 12 archetype system. I'll link that resource in the description. Number 1, the Idealist. Their core motivation is to remain safe and preserve happiness, faith, and goodness. They fear change, corruption, and loss. Elain is an idealist. She is optimistic, faithful, trusting, naive, pure-hearted. She is oriented toward goodness, harmony, beauty. And she seems motivated by preserving some sense of gentleness in a world that keeps violating it. Her love for gardening makes that especially clear. Number 2, the Realist. Their core motivation is to find belonging and connection in an imperfect world. They seek safety through resilience after betrayal, disappointment, or abandonment. Lucien is a realist. He is resilient, realistic, empathetic, disillusioned. His family betrays and disowns him. He leaves the autumn court, takes refuge in the spring court, then loses that home too and has to start over. He's emotionally perceptive. He's not naive, and he survives through adaptability and self-reliance after betrayal, disappointment, and displacement. Number 3 is the warrior. The warrior's core motivation is to prove their worth through action, courage, and strength. Cassian is obviously the warrior. He is general of the Night Court's military forces, and everything about him reflects that. He's courageous, disciplined, strong-willed, competitive, and determined. He fights for what matters, protects the people he loves, and he responds to pain through action, endurance, and perseverance. Number 4, the caregiver. Their core motivation is to help protect and care for others. So I thought of Alice. She's protective and nurturing. She takes care of Feyre, and she helps her navigate the unknowns of the Fae territory. She seems motivated by helping and protecting others. One of the clearest examples of that is when her sister and brother-in-law were killed. She took her nephews and fled to the Spring Court to keep them safe. Number 5, the Seeker. The Seeker's core motivation is to find freedom, authenticity, and a better life. They are driven to explore, discover, and become their truest self. Feyre, I think, is both a seeker and a creator. I think she's most clearly a seeker, first and foremost. She's always moving beyond the life she started with, crossing into new worlds and into new versions of herself, from the mortal lands to the Spring Court, under the mountain to the Night Court. She wants more than survival. She wants freedom, meaning, and a fuller life. But I also think she has a strong secondary archetype as the creator, because she processes the world through art. Painting becomes one of her main ways of making meaning of her life and what she survived. Number 6, the lover. Their core motivation is to experience love, connection, and intimacy. They seek deep emotional engagement with people, beauty, and life itself. Moore feels like the lover. She's passionate, intimate, devoted, and deeply oriented toward connection. And you can see how that affects Feyre when she first enters the world. She becomes a true friend. She's like the emotional glue of the inner circle. Number 7, the Destroyer. The Destroyer wants to tear down what's no longer working. They seek dramatic change, release, and liberation from oppressive structures or false realities. Nesta. Nesta is a destroyer. She is rebellious, transformative, disruptive, liberating, radical. She tears things down, including herself. She pushes people away, rejects what isn't working, and resists the roles that other people try to make her play. But the destroyer archetype isn't just about ruin for its own sake. It's about clearing away what can't continue so something new can emerge. Number 9, the ruler. The ruler's core motivation is to create order, structure, and prosperity. They fear chaos, instability, and loss of control. Tamlin, I think, is a mix between a ruler and a warrior. He's a warrior in that he fights for what matters to him. He spends years trying to break Amarantha's curse. He tries to protect his people, and he tries to protect Feyre. He even sends Feyre home to protect her from Amarantha when she could be the one to break the curse. But he's also a ruler because so much of his energy is about preserving order, stability, and control. His desire to protect is real, but over time, that protective instinct hardens into control. On a semi-related note, I have some mixed feelings about how the books frame Tamlin. I made a whole video about it and some other questions and complaints that I have about the series. I'll link that above in case you're interested. Number 10, the Magician. Their core motivation is to transform reality and bring possibility into being. I think Rhys is the magician and the ruler. He feels like a blend of both. He's obviously a ruler in the literal sense, but also in temperament. He's strategic, controlled, responsible, and always thinking about order and the bigger picture. But he's also a magician because he's a visionary. He has a vision, a dream of what Prythian could be, and he's created that ideal in Valeris. He uses his position and intellect and power to try to transform reality into that vision. Number 11, the Sage. The Sage seeks to find truth and understanding. They value knowledge, clarity, and wisdom, and they often use insight to guide others. I think Azriel is a mix of the Sage and the Realist. As a realist, he's resilient, he's empathetic, he is very much shaped by pain and isolation. He was abused and betrayed by his family. So he has the energy of someone who's learned not to expect softness from the world and to survive by staying guarded. But he's also a sage. He's wise, observant, analytical. He's the Night Court spy master. So his whole role is built around watching, understanding, and knowing what other people don't. Amren's a sage, I think. She's wise, analytical, detached, deeply knowledgeable. She's ancient, so she has this very old, otherworldly perspective that she carries with her. She studies the Book of Breathings and works to decipher ancient knowledge. She's usually the person that the group turns to when they need to understand something. She's another one that sees what others do not. And finally, number 12, the Jester. The Jester is playful, humorous, spontaneous, irreverent. They use humor, play, and irreverence to expose truth and make life bearable. I thought of the Suriel. Hear me out. This is a weird and fun pick. And it's not because the Suriel is cheerful or funny or entertaining in some way, but he's a trickster. He's got this quality of showing up, dropping truth, and almost playing with the revelation he delivers. It's a darker version of the archetype, but I think it works. So that's my ACOTAR cast matched to their Jungian archetype. Let me know in the comments who you think I got right and who I got completely wrong. And if you like this video, you'll probably like the one where I do a deep dive into how ACOTAR isn't really about good versus evil. Instead, I think it's about necessary evil. I'll link that video above in case you're interested. And while you're here, please like and subscribe. And that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.